Welcome back, everyone. Turning now to Utah, where a judge today issued a big win for the defense team of the man accused of assassinating Charlie Kirk. 22-year-old Tyler Robinson will be allowed to wear civilian clothes during future pretrial hearings. However, the judge denied a request for Robinson to appear without restraints, citing safety concerns. Robinson is accused of shooting and killing Kirk during an event at Utah Valley University. That, of course, was in September. He is facing the death penalty. For more on this is former federal prosecutor Neama Rahmani. He's joining us now. Neama, good to see you again.
Good to see you too, Hannah.
Are you surprised by this ruling that Robinson can wear street clothes inside a courtroom?
Hannah, I'm not surprised because it's so prejudicial to put a criminal defendant, even one who is accused of one of the most heinous murders in recent memory, in prison garb, not just for the trial jurors, but even the potential jurors. It's going to be very hard to get 12 men and women who haven't heard about this case. So all the publicity showing him in a straitjacket for suicide reasons and shackled, that's going to be potentially prejudicial for that jury pool.
Yeah, I was thinking of other high-profile cases like Diddy and Luigi Mangione. They, too, were in civilian clothes and restraints. The judge also ruled that media will not be allowed to even photograph Robinson as he comes in or leaves the courtroom. The judge did not make a ruling on whether to restrict the media in the courtroom. You know, all of us are waiting to see what that decision will be. What do you think he will decide?
I think ultimately he will allow cameras in the courtroom. And the reason he's not allowing the coming and going is those restraints, right? So we've all seen Diddy and Luigi Mangione in those neutral sweater vests. There's a whole science to this. And obviously the defense's job is to keep Tyler Robinson alive. I think it's going to be very hard to get a not guilty in this case, but it could be Brian Koberger there in Utah or any of the other high-profile criminal cases that we've covered, like Nicholas Cruz. If you're a defense attorney in this case, your only job is to keep Robinson alive.
Robinson's next court appearance, it's not until next year. It's January 16th. What do you think will happen then? How do you think it'll play out that day?
So that's going to be the preliminary hearing, and there's a couple ways to get to a felony jury trial. Obviously, we always hear about the grand jury indictment, but in certain states, like on the West Coast where I am and in Utah, instead of a grand jury indictment, you go to a preliminary hearing or a prelim, and it's essentially a mini trial before the judge. The rules of evidence don't apply, so you'll see officers come and present hearsay like they do before the grand jury, and it's still that low standard. It's just probable cause, but it's an opportunity for the defense to get information about the case, cross-examine some of those law enforcement officers, so they need time to prepare for that preliminary hearing. But again, there's so much evidence, the DNA, the surveillance that we've seen. I fully expect this to go to a jury trial and the prelim to be a mere formality.
I'm thinking about something you said about the science when these men walk in, and you're right, Diddy and Luigi Mangione, they pretty much had the same outfit on. Talk to me a little bit more about this science.
Well, Hannah, what you want to do if you're a defense attorney is to make your client, the criminal defendant, seem like an ordinary individual, right? So anything that's subdued, vest, you don't want Diddy, for instance, to be wearing, high-profile, expensive Versace suits. That's not what you want. You want your client to be an everyman. Here's someone who's obviously younger. I believe he's only 22 years old, member of the Mormon faith. So anything you can do to get sympathy for your client, that is helpful because, of course, the prosecution needs to convince all 12 unanimously to put him to death.
You and I are talking about the win for the defense. What do you think the prosecution will be looking for if this does go into trial when they're looking for a jury?
They're going to want jurors that will have no problem to sentence them to death. Because look, the DNA is there. The admissions are there on Discord to friends and family members. There's obviously the surveillance video of him going to and from the university. It's going to be very hard to defend this case on the merits because, Hannah, really when you're talking about murder cases, there's really three types of defenses. It wasn't me. I didn't intend to do it. It was an accident, or it was self-defense. I don't think the defense can credibly argue any of those. So I think what they want to do is put on more of a mitigation package and do something to try to save this young man's life.
Neama Rahmani, always appreciate your expertise. Thank you so much for coming on.
Of course, Hannah. Great seeing you as always.